Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about a topic or concept of remembering what was lost. If you are a U.S. citizen, and I guess you would have to be, somewhere in your late 20s at this point, mid-20s around there, to know what happened on 9/11. This is something that our country had to deal with, where we had to deal with loss, we had to deal with uncertainty. And it seems from that point, uncertainty continued to set in as we were coming in the years. Shortly, 2008, we had the economic collapse with the housing in the market and everything going crazy. And we can see that it seems like every so often there's something that jolts us awake to pay attention. And even in my own personal life, same date, 9/11, 2016, your life changes. Things happen. And you wonder, what do you do about it? How can you navigate through this uncertainty or this new way of life that is presented to you? And maybe you didn't want it. But there is a concept that if you remember what was lost, you can appreciate what you will have. They say that when people are in their casket, they're going to get more tears and more affection than they might have gotten in the last months of their life. Of course, if you knew something was going to happen and it wasn't too sudden, of course, you might have spent time with them. You might have gave them as much time and love and attention and care as they needed. But the reality is many people get busy. We get busy with our own lives and we get busy with our own circumstances that we forget what's happening around us. In a sense, we think in terms of problems, not in solutions. What is the problem that you're facing right now that you gave yourself to think about? We all do it, sometimes unknowingly. I know economically, many people are struggling, but it doesn't mean that that has to be the circumstance and the reality for everyone. We have to not only think about it, but we have to figure out the action we need to do to get out of it. Because if you're thinking one way and you're not thinking another way, you're going to stay stuck in that thinking pattern. That means if you're thinking negative and you're not thinking of solutions, you're only thinking of the hardship that you're facing, guess what? You're going to ruminate it and you're going to stew in it and you're going to stay in it. You're not going to find the solution. You're not going to find how to get out. Sometimes I say, if you're in the dark, turn on the light. But sometimes people, they just love the darkness because they can't see the reality that they're about to face. Because sometimes the fears that they have to go through, the struggles and the challenges and the tribulations, is easier to say, you know what? Maybe I'll do it another day. You know what? Not today. You know what? That's someone else's problem. I mean, we can be passive about life, but yet in life, the people who are most active and the most consistent are the ones who develop a lifestyle that many people admire and want to some degree. I'm not saying that people want my life, and my life is definitely full of challenges and problems and things that you probably don't want to deal with. For example, my wife the other day, she was like, when I'm done with school, do I have to work? I said, no, you don't have to work. I said, the only reason you're working right now is because you want to work. She gave herself a huge problem, having an employer. Not saying that having an employer is a bad thing. But then at the same time, I'm not going to be the type of person who's going to restrict someone's dreams, because we all had a dream at some point in our life. Sometimes we forget those dreams. Think about when you were younger, remembering what was lost. I've talked about this on the podcast, and I will continue to talk about it on the podcast, on how when we're younger, we are geniuses in our own right. We think in a way that is of a genius. We operate in a way that's of a genius. But then somewhere we instill limiting beliefs within ourselves. Society instills limiting beliefs within us, and we lose it. The potential, our future, our capabilities, everything that could have been wonderful and great and lead us to prosperity and abundance is gone. Why so readily? Why do we just get into this, I guess you can say, rat race of destruction? Because we get in a rat race of working for an employer, for a career, for a paycheck until we're 65. We get 2 weeks off a year. Sometimes I like to travel. My family's not here in Texas with me. I understand family is so important because when they're gone, they're gone. You can go visit their grave and you can pray to them and you can envision them and you can look at their picture and you can look at videos and you can give yourself that reality for a moment. But the idea of them being there, that you can touch them again, that's gone. Remembering what was lost can be powerful because it can help you understand what you have. So family is big for me. I even talked about, it's like, listen, I'm moving everyone to Texas because Texas is so great. I just like Texas. I understand it gets hot. I understand political views might not be in alignment with some people. But besides that, the quality of people are phenomenal. And I'm not saying that the quality of people in other places are not great, but it is a different type of upbringing. Call it Southern hospitality, maybe, if you will. The room for opportunity is abundant here in Texas. From when I moved to Connecticut, of course, things were a little bit cheaper than Connecticut, gas, housing, etc. I was able to start a business and launch it. In Connecticut, I would have had a lot more hurdles along the way. I did have more support in Connecticut because basically I came to Texas by myself and said, all right, let me do this from scratch. But then I give myself this mindset that it might not have mattered where I was. If I was at the point in my life where I needed to make change, I would have made it a change. And I remember I talked about this before. I was talking to my grandma before I left, and I was saying bye to all my family members. I was going to house, and literally, like, I should have been on the road driving to Texas with my dog, but I went to, family member to family member saying goodbye. They all said the same thing. You'll be all right. You'll do good. You'll make it through. That moment, or those moments, it helped ignite something within me that people were watching. And it's not so much watching in a bad way, but cheering me on in a good way. Think of it as if you are in the finals of a sports game, soccer or basketball, it doesn't matter. You have your family there. They're cheering you on. The reality is you still can lose, but you can win too, right? The moment that was right in front of you, could you reach for it and grab it? Victory. It was never assured, but it was always wanted and desired. In a sense, our life is like that. We desire things that are going to make us feel good, that are going to make us happy, that are going to make us feel like we're doing all right. But then sometimes we forget what we had. Think of the progress you have made. I was just thinking the other day, I was like, I remember in high school, and then I was thinking about some of the girls I was dating. And it's not that, I was thinking about them because I wanted to think about them, but I was just thinking about how life can change so crazy. Because at some point I gave myself a goal. I said I wanted to have kids. I said I wanted to have kids before I was 35. And then this is where the aspect of high school came in, because I know some people I went to high school with, they had children at a very young age. And in my head, in my mind at the time, again, my mindset, I was like, what in the world is wrong with these people? They're having kids at this young age. And I remember this one girl, we went out a little bit. She has a whole family. She has 5 kids. And I'm like, that's insane. Because her kids are I want to say, high school. So it's whoa, am I old or am I not old? Because my kids now are kids, children below 5. And then I give myself this aspect of, if I had children at a young age, what would happen? Would things be different? Of course, things would be different, but would I have ended up where I am today? Would I be in Texas? Would I have a business? Would I be a coach? I know I would have been a teacher still, but would I have left teaching? Would I have done the things that I've done? Developed the mindset that I developed? There's no way to know. I can make assumptions. I can say, yeah, let me assume that I would do this. I would move accordingly to what my typical mindset is. But the mindset I had when I was a teenager is vastly different than my mindset that I have today. I grew up. Do we remember when we were growing up? Some people call it the golden years. Some people don't. Some people say the golden years is in your 50s or something along those lines. They give themselves a different concept of time. For example, my best years could have been in high school. And maybe I was a superstar jock and I got all the girls and I won all the championships. And then now I'm working at Burger King for $15.75 an hour. Imagine what type of hurdle and mindset I would have to go through. I came from this grandiose figure of a person that everyone admired and everyone wanted to be. And now I'm a person that people just kind of pass by and they don't even remember my face or my name. I'm insignificant to them. If you don't believe that, try to figure out the last time you went to a spot that you go for once a month. It could be ice cream. It could be fast food. Some people like to go fast food more than once. So I don't want you to use fast food if you go to it frequently. But you go to a spot, let's say once a month, every 3 months or something like that. For example, the family, we go get ice cream maybe every 2 months or something along those lines. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but guess what? That's a lot of ice cream still. Because ice cream is like 1,200 calories or something like that. And I'm like, Jesus, it's 1,200 calories. That's like half your calorie allotment for the day. And I'm like, I don't want to use half my calorie allotment for an ice cream. But guess what? Ice creams are good, right? Live in the moment, right? But if I did that and I knew I lived in the moment too frequently, I would say, remember that time when I was thin? Remember that time when I was, when I was in shape and I looked good and I can run and I can lift stuff and now I can barely do that. Everything hurts. In a sense, the person who gave me my ice cream, they're not at fault. But at the same time, they're typically high school kids and stuff like that. I don't remember their faces or their names. It is not that I'm being mean or I'm not being nice or I'm not living in the moment. But it's because it doesn't happen so frequently. Greatness sometimes doesn't happen frequently for individuals. Sometimes failure can be prevalent every single day. And if you fail again and again and again and again and again, you might get a taste for failure. You might get used to it. But then at the same time, how can you find the mindset to drive toward that success? To instill yourself with this idea and this concept that you can win, that you can control your destiny. Some people think it's so far off. I can't tell you how many clients that come to me and they say they're going through a problem. And it could be any type of problem. It could be a problem with their relationship, a problem with their career. It could be any type of issue. One of the things that we look at is how long they have been in this position. When was the last time they were happy with their career, their relationship? They don't look at that. They think about how bad things have been. And then we can even look at the discrepancy in how many years you wait to have something good. Remembering what was lost, the good stuff in your life, it doesn't have to be when things go bad. We can be reminded at the most pivotal times in our life where we can say, you know what? I'm going to remember this for a moment because I know it's going to help drive me forward and towards something better. This can happen when you figured out like, okay, I want to go to college. I want to go to school. I want to be a doctor, for example. And you put in all of this work and all of this effort to be a doctor. It's not an easy task. And at some point, you become a doctor. You are super excited, right? You're ecstatic. You feel accomplished that you did something. And then you begin working. And while you work, you realize something, that the challenge for you to get to where you are today is forgotten. We don't necessarily remember the steps that got us to the heights that we're at. Every step is forgotten in a sense because we're worried about the next step. I remember I was hiking, this is 2018, I believe, maybe 2019, where I went to California with a good friend. And he had hiked the Appalachian trails, and he was a strong hiker, good hiker. And he was supposed to do the whole Appalachian Trail, but he had hurt his ankle, so he wasn't able to continue. And rightfully so. You don't want to push yourself and then hurt yourself long term, right? You don't want to be walking around with a limp your whole entire life. If something is broken, something's not working, let's stop and let's focus. I had to learn the hard way. When something was broken or something wasn't, fully 100% operational, I'm like, I don't care. I'm still going to run a marathon. I'm still going to do this. And literally, like, my hamstring is like falling apart. So there's different folks, right? Some people are going to push through the pain and get hurt. Maybe they make it through. There's certain people who understand, like, okay, this is my limit right now. It doesn't mean that this is my cap. It doesn't mean that I can't change it. But today I'm going to rest. I'm going to heal. Going back to the story now, this was a man who was a well-versed hiker, in good shape. I was in good shape too at the time. I mean, I'm still in good shape, but like, I give myself different levels of fitness. For example, fighters, they give themselves fighting fitness, and then they give themselves a general fitness. And unless I'm doing something big, I'm in that general fitness where I can do everything I love and I can live my life accordingly to, my standards. I don't have to be so rigid and so rudimented. I'm not trying to be this grandiose bodybuilder or anything like that. So my level of fitness is going to be what I deem appropriate. Can I do the things that I need to do? Aesthetically, I always have to be pleasing. But then at the same time, I'm not going to be like, oh, wait, I don't have 20-pack abs. This right here is just not something that I need. Okay. I'm sure my wife would be like, why do you have to, get 20-pack abs, and why can't you eat ice cream with the family? That would be a conversation, I'm sure. But at the same time, I'm sure she would understand. But then we go back again to the story because I keep diverging away from the story. Like, I don't want to tell it. We are hiking. And I remember when he picked me up from the bus stop, because that's the way it works in LA or something. So you go on the airplane and then you land and you take the bus to where you got to go because it's kind of far away. So either way, I am there and I get off and I have, a nice physique. And he's like, whoa, like, you look great. And so we go hiking and I'm like, this hike is easy. So we're hiking and I'm making it all the way up to the top. And we get up to the second to the last summit. There was a little bit more. And this is like during the time when there was like a huge wildfire, forest fire there. It was insane. Like at night, it looked like a war. It was just red. The sky was red. I was like, that's insane. And then we woke up and you can just see smoke everywhere, like outside, just foggy smoke. We didn't have to evacuate or anything, but it was different. So on this hike, he stopped on the second to last peak and he goes on, I'm just going to hang out here. It was just a little bit more. And I said, well, you don't want to get to the top? He goes, no, I'm good. Maybe because he did it before. Maybe, he wasn't up to it. Maybe he was tired. I don't know. But he didn't make it to the top. He didn't go all the way to the top with me. And it wasn't anything like, oh, I'm upset at him. He didn't make it to the top of me. But it was something that I did pay attention to. So I get to the top. There was this lady at the top. She was probably the same age as me. I didn't say anything to her. She didn't say anything to me. We just kind of appreciated the moment together where we looked around the view. I don't know what was going on in her mind, but it seemed like she had a lot on her mind. She was burdened maybe, but at that point, when you just see all the hills and everything going around, we see how small we can be and how insignificant we can be, or that we are. But then we can also see how far we have come from looking at where our cars were. If you can see that far, that was a long distance. And this hike was probably almost 2 hours up to the top. And then, of course, you had to take the 2-hour hike down. So that wasn't fun. We tried to do some shortcuts, but it didn't really work out in our favor. You typically had to go down the winding paths. And, we got there around the afternoon. And by the time we left, the sun was setting. But I look at those moments as an opportunity. What was in my life? I can say that my physique was a little bit better. I can say that my mindset was a little bit better. I can say my relationships at the time were a little bit better. I can say anything was a little bit better, right? I can remember those moments and cherish those moments. But then at the same time, what do I gain if I remember all the time what was lost? Can I give myself this mindset of what I will have? You have to separate them, right? You just can't say, okay, I'm remembering what I lost so I can focus on what I have all the time. We use those moments, the moments of uncertainty, of insecurity, of trauma, and we can elevate from them. But then at the same time, are we learning from them? Some people, they learn quite quickly. Some people, they don't. Some people, they just kind of repeat the same type of lifestyle and they just say, this is my circumstance. But today I want to leave you with an understanding that you might not be exactly where you are today. Life might not have been kind to you. You might have had many challenges and struggles, and you will have more challenges and struggles, and many bad things might happen in your life. But it doesn't mean that you have a bad life. Because we all have the ability, the opportunity to find the good. Is your mind focused on the good? Is it focused on what it can be doing? Is it looking at the moment that we're in? Is it looking at the solutions and not the problems? Because if we are not focused on clarifying what's happening in our life, we're going to be, I guess you can say, doomed in a sense to repeat the process. So we have to look back at some point to remember where we have come from, to see if we're making progress in the right direction. Think of it as if you are hiking, moving, whatever, right? You can see if you're getting closer to the top of the mountain because you can look back, you can say, oh, I'm getting higher, or maybe you look up and you say, I'm getting closer to the peak. Maybe if you're driving, you can look at GPS and it says you're 1.5 miles away from your destination. And then you look down again, you're 2.7 miles away from your destination. Well, what happened? Did you take a wrong turn? Were you not looking? Were you not paying attention? You got further away from the goal. And in a sense, we all have a goal. Goal could be happiness. Goal can be prosperity. It can be abundance. It could be traveling the world. I mean, whatever goal you give yourself, you have to remember where you were, what was lost, your time. Your time is non-renewable. You can't get it back. Your life is one and done. So I encourage you, look back at when you were in high school. Look back at the moments when you had loved ones that might have still been around and what, they might have said certain things and they had certain type of quirks and they cooked certain foods that you might have loved and that you might miss. And, they even have a saying like, there's nothing like home cooking, like mom's cooking or something like that. When you taste food, that helps you remember, like your childhood, your past. Powerful emotions are going to sway and swing over you. Utilize them, appreciate them, because if you don't, it becomes challenging to navigate through all the busyness that our world that we're facing today. I remember Drake's song. He talks about having hot sauce and sriracha or something with his ramen because that's all he can afford. Now this is a man who has mansions and cars and bodyguards and private jets, and this is his lifestyle now. But I am 100% certain, I don't know the man. I'm sure I can reach out to him and I can talk to him, see if he needs a coach. I'm sure I can facilitate that if I truly wanted to. But the only question I would want to ask him is, do you still think about when you didn't have this life? How often do you think about it? You lost that weaker self, that weaker version of yourself, or that lesser version of yourself, but yet that person helped you become who you are today. So sometimes we can look back and say, I can't even recognize myself because I'm in such a different place. And it could be a positive thing or a negative thing. So hopefully it's a positive thing, right? But we get to make a choice. If you have found yourself making the wrong choice toward negative, to looking at who you were in your yesterdays, and it's not better than, who you are, and it's not better than who you are currently, it would probably behoove you to make some changes. It would probably behoove you to seek out consultation, get some help, to investigate why you're not getting closer to your destination, your goal. What's stopping you? Sometimes it could be us. Sometimes it can be an outside stimulus, but oftentimes we are the people in control of our destiny. And if we don't know how to get there, we're not going to get there. Or if we do get there, it might be by luck, or it might be after so many years of trying and kind of just moving haphazardly, we stumbled across where we're supposed to be. It doesn't have to be that. Look back at who you were once more. Maybe you can look at the good moments, and maybe you can look at the bad moments, and you can compare and contrast, and you can say if you are in a better place now than you were the time before. And regardless of your answer, understand that your current situation can always be better than what you thought about. So that means there's room for potential, there's room for growth, and you just have to be a person that's willing and ready to get it. We help individuals with mindset, with all aspects of coaching in personal and professional development, because the dreams that we have might be forgotten, might be swept under the rug, but in order to be realized, we have to take action. So the action that you take is going to be dependent on you. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I'll be more than happy to help anyone who is looking to elevate themselves from who they were to become the person that they envision for themselves. Until the next episode of Coaching in Session, everyone, take care.